Everyone, I am back for this week's video, week number 2, and I decided with everything going on and all the misrepresentation in the world that I was going to do this week's video on misrepresentation and how a lot of people can be misrepresented and how Christians and their faith can be misrepresented, and I think it's very important to clear some of that up. So this is a video on misrepresentation. So a lot of what Charlie Kirk said was misrepresented, and if you involve yourself with any type of social media, that whatever you like, whatever you comment on, whatever videos you interact with, the algorithm is going to show you more of those videos because they think that's what you're going to like. So I think a lot of people interact with certain types of videos that were going to misrepresent what people say and what people think, and that if you don't interact with those types of videos, you're going to see what really was said. And with social media and AI, it's very easy to misrepresent yourself, misrepresent others, and I just think that we should clear up that you should watch the full video or talk to that person directly before you take a hot take on them. A couple of people had reached out to me after my last video of how they admire that I am going out and doing this, but that I should be careful of who I'm looking up to and referencing because of things they had said. And so a lot of it was about race, and so one person had reached out to me and said that Charlie Kirk was racist and hateful and all these things, and I was like, oh, I should go research this and just see what this is all about. So every question that she had sent me, I went and researched it, and it was very much misrepresented. And so he had said that the Civil Rights Act was a bad move, but if you watch the full video, you know that what he meant was that the Civil Rights Act was, today what it was being used for was a bad move. Originally it was used in a good way, and I 100% believe that the intent of it was beautiful. But what it's being used for now, for example, being able to force men into women's bathrooms and women into men's bathrooms, men's into women's sports, women into men's sports, all of those things, etc. That now what is being used for is very wrong. And so I will link the video down.
You said the Civil Rights Act was a mistake. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, so the parts of the Civil Rights Act were great, but the way it's now being implemented to force men in female bathrooms, to push forward of the trans agenda, the intent of the Civil Rights Act is way beyond what it was originally authored for.
But the intent specifically originally was to
Well, that's interesting. So the intent and the law are two different things. So the intent was noble, which was to say that no American can be not allowed into a place of business based on the color of their skin or their ethnic heritage. Totally agreement with that. That's not what the law only did. It created a massive anti-racist DEI army that then gave us affirmative action. For example, recently Merrick Garland sued using the Civil Rights Act, saying that we cannot have voter ID in certain states because it's a violation of the Civil Rights Act. So basically what the Civil Rights Act did is that it went beyond disparate impact and then went to disparate effect. In the sense where if Black Americans are not doing as well as white Americans in a certain category, you can now use the Civil Rights Act and say that's a violation of the Civil Rights Act, even though there might be other contributing factors. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's too broad, too wide, and it's now doing a lot of damage to the country. It's being used well beyond its original intent.
Comment where he said that, oh, well, if I see a Black pilot, I sure hope he's qualified. By that, he meant that DEI has put into effect a regulation, or not a law, but I guess you would say regulation or rule, to get hired off of your race. So I believe that when he meant that he hopes he sees a Black pilot or Asian pilot or Hispanic, whatever, that he hopes they're qualified off of the qualifications to use a plane and to pilot a plane rather than hired off of their ethnicity. I think that it is very much misrepresented because that makes him seem like a racist, and that's not what he meant. He just hopes that they are qualified to pilot a plane rather than they don't have the qualifications, but they're just hired because of DEI, which DEI does mean diversity, equality, and inclusion. And so I would hope that my pilot is also qualified and not just hired off of a regulation or a rule to meet their standards. And I'll put a video clip right here. And
Any individual can be qualified. I want a hiring quota and program that only cares about qualification, not skin color. And thirdly, I would say, why does United Airlines care so much about the color of the pilots that are flying them? Shouldn't they just want the best pilots? When you guys are flying from Vegas to Dallas or Vegas to Chicago, are you going to feel safer or more comfortable when you hit turbulence if you have a diverse pilot, or if you have a cockpit of the most qualified people that are there that have proven that they know how to land and fly?
When he said that he hopes, or sorry, not that he hopes, my bad, that he told a black woman that she does not have the brain processing power to be where she is. I believe it is Sheila Jackson said it herself, that she is only where she is at because of affirmative action. And I believe that she graduated, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe she graduated from Harvard, and because of affirmative action, Harvard had lowered their test scores and their standards, or maybe not standards, maybe it's just like their test scores, to get in, and that affirmative action is saying any gender, any race, all of those things. It doesn't matter on any of that, just that you are to get in. And so I think affirmative action helped her get there. And then this one's very hard. He said in one of his videos that, and the last point, the brain processing power because of affirmative action, I will also show a clip of that and of what he really meant.
3 weeks ago, Blake, if we would have said that Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously. Play cut 52.
But I rise today as a clear recipient of affirmative action, and particularly in higher education. I may have been admitted on affirmative action, both in terms of being a woman and a woman of color, but I can declare that I did not graduate on affirmative action. This is my personal story.
I hear because of action affirmative. She can't even say that. We know. It's very obvious to us that you were not smart enough to be able to get in on your own. I couldn't make it on my own, so I needed to take opportunities from someone more deserving. You know, this is how arrogant Joy Reid and Ketanji Brown Jackson and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee are. They're so narcissistic, they think this is persuasive. They think we're like, oh, of course, that's why we need affirmative action, because you have impressed us with your brilliance. Of course. Oh no, imagine the world without Joy Reid. Imagine the world without Sheila Jackson Lee or Michelle Obama or Ketanji Brown Jackson. They think this is persuasive. They think as they kind of now reveal that I'm only here because of anti-white, anti-Asian forced discrimination policies that turned me into a bitter, resentful activist that hates white people.
She said, or when he said that blacks were less murderous in the 1940s. The 1940s were more, they had more families. the dads were in the picture. They had that familiar feeling. And so I think when the family unit is what it is, started to break apart, the blacks and whites started trying to find that familiar family and where they'll be accepted and included and have, as we've said before, equality with one another. They started to join gangs and they started to do these things because they thought it was cool. And within gangs, most initiations are you have to kill someone to be initiated, or you have to rape someone to be initiated. I know in the area that I live, there is a gang. Every October they have this huge initiation that you have to rape there's a college around here, and you have to rape that certain college, one of their students, to get initiated, which is another whole topic for another whole time. But that is an initiation. And so when the Familia family started breaking apart, and they started looking where to feel included and where to feel loved and have that acceptance, and they turn to gangs because they know that if they do this one thing, they'll be accepted and they'll have a life full of whatever they want. And that's just not true. They need prayer and they need to turn to Christ. And then I was talking to my mom today and talking about a couple things, and she said that she feels like Christianity has been misrepresented multiple times, where God says, love everyone. And then the LGBTQ is like, love is love everyone, and how Christians should accept and love them, and all these things. That is not what God meant. God meant, yes, love everyone. But no, we don't have to accept your lifestyle. We don't have to agree with your lifestyle, but we have to love everyone. And I think there are a lot of things in the Bible that God says that when someone who does not have a biblical upbringing, when they read it, the enemy twists it in their mind to be like, this is what God meant. This is what he is telling me to do. All these things. And that's just not true. There is a verse in the Bible that says, pray to God and he will give you all the desires of your heart. That means if you are in God's will, he will give you the desires of your heart, because the desires of your heart will line up with his desires for you. It does not mean, oh, I want a new Lamborghini. Let me just pray for it and it'll happen. No. Oh, I want $1 million. Let me just pray for it and it'll happen. No. It means that, like, if you read the scripture before and after it, or just the whole chapter, it means that if you are aligned with God, then the desires of your heart will be the desires that he has for you in your life. So yes, those were just a few things. I can go more into misrepresentation on Christianity. I know it wasn't too long if you guys want to see more of that. But definitely leave your questions and your views or worldview down in the comments, or you can DM me and we can have a discussion if you don't want it on the video. And yeah, I love doing this, and I hope that you guys love watching it. But yeah, whatever questions you have, leave it down in the comments, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!